Welcome to the channel, guys. Today I've gathered 5 allegedly true scary stories from Reddit. If you guys have any requests for other narrations you would like to see me do, please let me know in the comments. Other than that, let's get into it. Story 1. Have you ever seen someone who wasn't actually there? One of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me is something I still can't explain, and what makes it even stranger is that I wasn't the only person who saw it. I was about 12 years old and I was talking with my dad in his bedroom. Across the room, there was a walk-in closet. The lights inside the closet were off, but we both could clearly see what looked like my mom standing in there folding clothes. Everything seemed completely normal. In the middle of our conversation, my dad asked my mom a question. She didn't answer, so he asked again. Still nothing. After a few more attempts, he started getting frustrated and began calling her name louder and louder, almost yelling, wondering why she was ignoring him. That's when I decided to get up and walk towards the closet. But before I could step inside, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and my mom walked into the bedroom with a towel wrapped around her. Looking confused, she asked, "Why are you yelling for me?" I just froze. I looked at her, then immediately looked back at the closet. There was nothing there. The closet was completely empty. Whatever my dad and I had been looking at just seconds before was gone. It wasn't my mom. It couldn't have been. She had been somewhere else the entire time. What makes this so unsettling is how convincing it was. Whatever we saw had my mom's exact shape, exact posture, and even the same hairstyle. My mom always wore her hair up in a bun, and that's exactly what we both saw standing in the closet. If I had been the only one to witness it, I probably would have convinced myself I imagined the whole thing. But I wasn't. My dad saw it too. To this day, neither of us has any explanation for what was standing in the closet. Story number 2. If this person wasn't trying to kidnap one of us, then I honestly have no idea what they were doing. This happened back around 2010 when I was about 12 years old. My 2 best friends and I, along with another few neighborhood kids around our age, spent almost every day riding our bikes and exploring the neighborhood. It was the kind of thing we do for hours and hours without thinking twice. After a while, though, we started noticing something really strange. There was an older white sedan, probably late 90s model, that seemed to be everywhere we went. At first we brushed it off as a coincidence, but then it kept happening. No matter what street we turned onto, the car would eventually appear behind us. It never drove at a normal speed either. It would just creep along really slowly, staying behind us the entire time. It never pulled into a driveway. It never parked, it just kept following us. This went on for months. Eventually, one of my friends managed to write down the license plate number, and his parents immediately contacted the police. The officers came out, took statements from all of us, and then ran the plate through their system. That's when things went and got even creepier. The license plate didn't belong to that car. It came back registered as a completely different vehicle. At this point, the police told us it was possible that the driver was using a stolen or swapped license plate. When you combine that with someone slowly following a group of kids around for months, it's not hard to think what their intentions might have been. We never found out who the driver was. No one was ever arrested. The car just eventually stopped showing up. That was the end of it. But even now, more than a decade later, I still think about that white sedan, especially when I'm walking through a quiet neighborhood by myself. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if that person is still out there, and if they're following someone else. Wow. Story number 3. I have never believed in the paranormal, but after what I saw in that basement, I just will never look at a dog the same way again. I had just started working for a carpentry company. I was fresh out of high school, so I was completely new to the job. One morning, my boss called me and told me to head over to one of our job sites. When I got there, he showed me what needed to be done, then left quickly to check on another crew. Because we were short-staffed, I was the only person at that house. I took my shoes off, grabbed my supplies, and started heading towards the basement. As I walked to the stairs, I heard what sounded like heavy panting somewhere below me. I figured the homeowners must have had a dog somewhere, so I didn't think much of it. When I went down in the basement, it was mostly unfinished. I went into the room where we kept most of our equipment and started cleaning our mud buckets. That's when I heard a bark. But it wasn't a normal dog bark. It just sounded wrong. The closest way I could describe it was it sounded like a grown man trying to imitate a dog barking. It was so strange that I immediately assumed it was my boss, had forgotten something, and was just trying to mess with me. I dropped what I was doing, walked to the doorway, and yelled his name. Nothing. No answer. At that point, I started feeling very uneasy. I decided I was going to head back upstairs, but before I could leave the room again, I heard the barking again. This time it was echoing deeper from the basement. I followed the sound into one of the other rooms, and that's when I saw it. It was a massive dog, but something completely felt off. Its eyes didn't look like a dog's. It looked almost human. It was uncanny. For a split second, the only thought that crossed my mind is that it looked like a grown man hiding inside a dog's skin. I know how insane that sounds, but that's exactly how it felt. The moment our eyes met, every hair on my body stood up. My eyes started watering, I got chills from head to toe, and I've never felt fear like I felt since that day. Even now, years later, my blood still runs cold every time I think about those eyes. Oh, that's probably my favorite story out of all of them. It just gives me chills every time I read it. It's just the dog and the human eyes. It's just, I can't. It's so uncanny, super creepy. Let me know what you guys would have done. That is just terrifying. Oh my gosh. On to story 4. Story 4. If my grandma hadn't hit the brakes when he did, neither of us would have been here to tell the story. The story is, this happened when I was about 10 years old. My grandpa and I were driving to a ranch in Mexico. It was about 3:40 in the morning, and we were taking a road that a lot of locals believe was haunted. We were riding in my grandpa's old blue Ford pickup, just me and him talking, passing the time. Out of nowhere, my grandpa looked over to me and said, "You know, people say this road is haunted. There's a woman who stands on the side of the road asking people for rides." As soon as he said that, I got nervous. I couldn't stop looking out the window, expecting to see someone standing in the darkness. After about 40 minutes, the sun still hadn't come up. The road was almost completely empty. That's when I noticed something strange. My grandpa kept glancing up at the rearview mirror, over and over again. I finally asked him, "What's wrong?" Without taking his eyes off the road, he quietly said, "Nothing." But something about the way he answered me made me curious. So I looked into the rearview mirror. The second I looked, my heart dropped. Standing in the bed of the truck was a woman wearing a long white dress. She wasn't holding onto anything. She was just standing there, staring at us. Her eyes were completely black. I couldn't move. I was frozen. A second later, my grandpa looked into the mirror again. Judging by the expression on his face, he saw her too. Without saying a word, he slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched to a stop. We looked at each other in complete shock, then we both slowly looked back at the mirrors. She was gone. We got out of the truck, still trying to process what we'd just seen. That's when we realized something even more terrifying. We had just stopped moments before, driving straight into a deep ditch off the side of the road. If my grandpa hadn't hit the brakes when he did, we probably wouldn't have survived. We talked about it right there and confirmed we'd both seen the exact same woman. To this day, Neither of us has an explanation for what happened that night. After that experience, we never took that road again. Wow. They both saw her, and as scary as that is, it's kind of a good thing because he stopped right before hitting the ditch, or a bad thing if it distracted him and that's why he was going to drive into the ditch. You never know. That's creepy. That one made my palms sweat. Wow, I'm loving these stories so far. Now let's move on to story 5 here. I was about 9 years old. My family lived in a tiny rural community made up of only 5 houses. One of our neighbors always seemed different. He was extremely religious, but not in any way that anyone around us was. He didn't worship the same God as we did, and my mom always said he gave her a bad feeling. She consistently warned my sister and me to stay away from him. Every so often, though, about 6 other people would show up to his house. They'd all get together after dark and stay the entire night. We never knew what they were doing. But one night, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom window sliding open. The window didn't have a lock. Before I could even react or run, a man climbed through the window and grabbed me. I screamed as loud as possible. The sound brought my mom running into my room. The man panicked. He dropped me and immediately fled back out the window. My mom grabbed my sister and me, and we ran to the neighbor's house to call the police. When the officers arrived, they quickly connected the intruder to the strange man who lived next door. They raided his house the same night. According to what I was told later on, inside was covered with strange symbols and candles. Everyone inside the house was dressed in robes. And to this day, I have no idea what they were planning to do with me. And honestly, I don't want to know. My family moved away as quickly as we could after that, because our, in quotes, town was nothing more than 5 isolated houses out in the countryside. I don't ever think this story made the news, and even if it did, we didn't have a TV out there anyways. Looking back at it now, I can't help but wonder what would have happened to me if I hadn't screamed when I did. Wow, yeah. If you hadn't screamed and your mom wasn't a hero and she just didn't run in when she did, yeah, who knows what could have happened. That's terrifying. Glad you got out safe. And yeah, thank you guys for listening to the stories for the day. That's all I have for you guys. The next one should be creepier. I'm going to look for some really good ones. And if you have any comments or any recommendations or feedback, please let me know. Thank you guys, and I'll see you later.